great to have you with us. Our panel for the last hour includes two major consultants. This is a real treat for everybody. On the Republican side, Brian Kerwin from Virginia Beach. Been in the business a very long time, has a very, very solid track record. On the Democratic side, my good friend came down from Fairfax, Ben Tribbett. Ben is probably, in my judgment, one of the best Democratic consultants in Virginia. If you're a Democrat and you want to win, you need to hire him. Absolutely top draw. And he just won a bunch of races in California, in Orange County of all places, in the blue wave. Also with us is Kerry Doherty. And Kerry's a former columnist with the Virginia Pilot, now an independent journalist. Scott Taylor is with us, candidate for Congress, 2nd District, Virginia Beach, trying to get that seat back from Elaine Luria. That'll be decided in a primary July 23rd. I think I got all that. Scott, of course, that's an open primary.
June 23rd.
June 23rd. What do you say?
June 23rd. Thank you. I meant June 23rd. Also, Ron Arcel is with us, and he's a small business owner. We're going to get him involved in a couple of minutes, Ron. So we were making predictions before we went to that out there. And I think all of us. I
got eaten up by the commercial, John.
I know.
You didn't get his prediction.
But Kiara, basically, that was her statement. She had enough of me trampling over the time. So let's get back to the predictions.
What happens when you wear a Washington Nationals jersey?
Yes, just so everybody can see on Facebook. Here's my little Astros thing. We didn't cheat. Perfect baseball. And Ben comes in his Washington Nationals jersey to piss me off. That's whatever. Aggravate me, whatever. Anyway, so now let's go to the fall. I think everybody thinks Taylor's going to be the nominee. So let's go to the fall.
I never got a chance to finish mine.
All right, go ahead.
All right. I think Scott's going to win the primary by about 50 points.
50. 50? Like 5-0?
5-0. And I'll tell you why. Remember that, he lost the congressional seat 51-49 in the general election of 2018. That means of Republican voters that probably 98% of them cast an affirmative ballot for him that are going to vote in this primary in 2018. Now, even say 20% of those people held their nose and didn't like him and cast a ballot for him because he's a Republican candidate in the general election. He has universal name ID in the primary. He had almost every single person who's going to cast a vote in the primary has voted for him in the past. Mm-hmm. I don't know how it even stays within 50 points. It may be bigger than that. He's going to win in a landslide in the primary. I think that the general election is a much tougher climb. I think when you have an incumbent advantage, and I think Scott had an incumbent advantage in 18, he would have lost a lot more if that was an open seat in the environment of 2018. Now that incumbent advantage has shifted to Luria, and she's on TV every day. She is casting votes. I will note that she was one of the Democrats who cast the ballot or her vote against this fourth stimulus package that was put forward. I think there were only a handful of Democrats in the House that did that. That has a real impact on real voters. When we get outside the Democratic voters, the Republican voters, and to the independents, incumbency really does matter. And so I think in the same way that Luria needed the Democratic wave to win in 2018, and she got it, Scott is going to need a strong Republican tide behind him in 2020 to be able to beat her. And I think that the only way Taylor wins this election is with Donald Trump winning the district. If Donald Trump doesn't win this district, it's over on day one. Mm-hmm. I think if Trump wins the district narrowly, he may or may not be able to win. It depends how much of the vote stays consolidated. If Trump were to win the district in a landslide, Taylor's coming back to Congress. And so I think a lot of it has to do with how the top of the ballot goes. And for anyone to try to predict this presidential contest right now, especially in a district like the 2nd District, which is historically one of the most independent in the state, I think it's a fool's errand to even begin to try to guess in May what's going to happen in November. We don't even know what will happen next week.
Trump is going to win the district, and Taylor's going back to Congress.
Can I give an analysis? And I want to make take out any politics, and I'd like to make my consultants proud, with analysis. So when you look at 2018, and everyone has their opinion on why we lost, right? Well, obviously I've done the numbers and looked at all the precincts and everything, and agonized over it more than anybody, right? So when you look at it, the whole the whole thing, you could sum it up in one word: turnout. The turnout, we had 30,000 more votes in 2018 than the previous Congressman Scott Ridgell did in his midterm. So we had an elevated turnout. But Democrats, to their credit, had a wave, and their turnout, not in just the 2nd district, but across all of Virginia, was almost presidential. So even the night of the election, and I'm like, we're up by 6. I'm like, are they going to call this thing? And then I saw College Park precinct come in, and I'm like, and you know this very well, Brian. I'm like, we're in trouble. We're in trouble because of their turnout. So when you look at Dave Bratt's district, so we outperformed as a congressperson the other congressional seats that lost. Dave Bratt's district is what, plus 7-ish Republican. Ours is +3, +4. We both lost by two points, right? So everyone has their opinion, whether it was our own campaign problems, whatever it was. But the reality was all turnout. Elaine Luria, herself, female veteran, no political baggage whatsoever. She herself was probably one of the least things that contributed to her win, right? She ran as a moderate. She ran as pro-business. She ran as, I'm going to work with Republicans, work with the president, all that stuff, right? Now, fast forward 2 years. This district, again, is +3, +4 Republican. The president won it by 3, and that's with the sitting congressman doing ads against him and supporting the Libertarian at the time, if you remember, 2016. He's going to win it again. Elaine Luria. At the time, Ridgel was doing it. Trump's going to win it. The president will win it again. You also have now Elaine Luria, who is not at all, and this isn't, I don't want to be political, but she's not, she has a record, 2-year record. So, and that does not jive up with what she ran as. And so it's very easy, whether it's me or Ben Loyola, whoever it is, to say she's not at all who she said she was, and this is why. Incumbency is important. It definitely is. But there was also a poll a couple months ago that showed that she hasn't elevated herself whatsoever as an incumbent. And we were already tied with her and had higher positives and lower negatives without doing any campaign whatsoever. So I think that you're correct in that if the president lost this district, then yes, it would be very tough to overcome that. I think, however, he's going to win the district again, and I think that we will ultimately prevail. And based on those things, and turnout matters and everything like that, of course. And just like with, who was the last guy that Ridgel beat? Glenn Nye, right? I think you're going to have a similar situation.
I was going to bring that up.
Yeah.
You're going to have a similar situation there.
But remember, too, and again, when we talk about, let's say that the results were the same as the 2016 election, Trump winning the district by 3. Luria would win the general election if it was Trump by 3. And the reason is,
way.
And here's why. You need Trump to win by more than 3 because of the number of people that don't cast a ballot for either one of the two. So when Trump won the district by 3, he was well under 50. And what you're going to see as a Republican challenger is you're going to need Trump to be touching on 50, not just winning the district by 3.
You're missing it because there are Republicans who won't cast a vote for Trump, but will cast a vote for the
That's not what we saw last time. I mean,
you saw you're
talking consultant politics.
And things
never
can change,
run the
right?
last
You're
election.
talking about 2018, which was an anonomaly, and to be fair,
well,
you guys did a great job.
and
But the reality is, now we will both have presidential turnout, right? 100%. People are coming out. They're coming out, and certainly on the Republican side, no matter what it looks like in terms of the virus and everything like that, Republicans are definitely coming out.
So my gut says you probably need the president to win the Texan district by 5 or 6 points to be touching on 50. If he's touching on 50, that's around the number where I think Scott has a chance to win.
Yeah, I appreciate that Ben's hedging a little bit because it's a long way away. But where I really think you're wrong is Luria just Glenn Nye herself. Glenn Nye thought he was getting a lot of points and gaining points by being, bipartisan and working with Republicans when he voted against Obamacare. Didn't help him at all. If Luria was confident, if she thought the Democratic wave of 17, 18, and 19 was continuing into 2020, she wouldn't have voted no. She wouldn't have voted with the Republicans last Friday. The fact that she was scared enough of her own reelection to have to vote with the Republicans, possibly getting it passed to do so the bill would pass without her vote, tells you she's scared. If she thought her reelection was a lock, she would vote with her party.
Oh, I don't think anyone would say it's a lock. And can I just jump in and say,
let's get to Doherty.
And two of these districts are in Virginia. There's only 11 districts in the country that have Democratic congresspeople that voted for John McCain, Mitt Romney, and Donald Trump. In the second district's one of those 11. So there's no question that it's a vulnerable district and it's competitive, and it's a district that is Republican enough that it's a type of district that could fall and still have the Democrats narrowly holding a majority. So it is definitely a seat that is vulnerable. There's no question to that. I think that this bill that was put forward on Friday not taking the bait to vote for it was a very smart move on her part, because when Glenn Nye voted no on Obamacare and voted to deny people health care, that devastated Democratic turnout. I don't think that voting for 3 stimulus bills and not voting for the 4th one is going to affect turnout one bit in November.
Yeah, unless she comes out and says why she voted no.
Yeah, and that's the thing we're trying to get her on the record. We want to know what she objected to in that bill, because that would be very interesting to get her. And here's the thing about Elaine Luria: she campaigned as a moderate. She said she didn't think she really hedged on Nancy Pelosi. Would you support her? Because remember, Nancy Pelosi was sort of poisoned in that election. She wasn't sure she was going to support her for leader. She got in office. She immediately voted for Nancy Pelosi. A couple months later, during the shutdown, she was ready to get on a plane with Nancy Pelosi on some junket that
like tens of thousands of people in this district weren't getting paid.
Take your suitcases and come home or pay for it yourself. I mean, she was exposed right away at that first State of the Union address. She was there in a white dress like a sorority girl on pref night, marching with Nancy Pelosi and those ridiculous women that all think they dress alike, makes them look like independent thinkers.
I remember the old liberal Carrie Doherty. So like this new like Mean Girls Carrie Doherty has I'm having trouble with.
I woke up about 20 years ago. You just haven't been paying attention, but she, and then this year at the State of the Union address, she dressed in purple because it's an election year. She's a phony, and we all know it. And now this took absolutely zero courage to vote against this bill last week. She was one of 12. They didn't need their votes. They're all in Republican districts. And where has Elaine Luria been on the closure of Virginia Beach?
Nowhere.
I mean, she's been absolutely AWOL on the fact her district is turning into a nuclear wasteland thanks to our Democratic governor. And she's been silent on it. If she's been working behind the scenes, then she's trying to have it both ways. But she has not publicly called for the reopening of her district. People are suffering here, and she's been AWOL. I think she's toast.
Can I make 2 quick comments, John? Yep. Just really quickly. Number one, and Carrie, you're a close follower of Hampton Roads politics and have been for decades.
Yes.
What did Scott Taylor wear to his State of the Union addresses?
I assume he dressed like a man wearing his own clothes.
Did you watch very closely? I mean, that is such a ridiculous thing to go through. This is what. Scott. Oh my gosh, Elaine Luria wore white to this State of the Union.
The cameras weren't on.
That is the issue to take her down on. Is that you're complaining about what color outfit she wore to the State of the Union? That is pathetic. Okay, I just want to jump in right on that.
No, I think women ought to not act ridiculous.
Scott, do you remember what color tie you wore to your State of the Union?
I think women should not act ridiculous. This all dressing alike is so incredibly demeaning.
How many camera shots were there of the women in white clothes? I mean, over and over.
I know, but I'm saying, I didn't see a lot of camera shots about Elaine wearing purple this year. I mean, it's just it's about the election. She wore purple. Maybe she had a clean purple outfit.
No, there was a little group of people wearing purple there for some ridiculous reason.
I think he's focusing in on the wrong point.
I know there are no Washington
Your
National
biggest point
jerseys.
was that 66% of this district is dying, and much more, by the way.
Right.
She's speaking about Virginia Beach, but it's much more than that as well.
Right.
But I think you're myopically focusing on the wrong thing. The reality is there's been zero leadership from Elaine Luria, zero on this issue, because she is trying to have it both ways and waffling. Meanwhile, people, Democrats, Independents, Republicans in this district are having their livelihoods, their life's work destroyed because of decisions by this governor, quite frankly. And even if they're well-intended, they're not commonsensical. And she's nowhere with leadership anywhere.
And I'm just going to jump in and say, I'm not in this media market. I live in Fairfax, so I'm not watching. I can't tell you what she has said or not said about the beachfront stuff because I haven't seen it. So that's what you all are saying. I'm not gonna debate that because I'm not here. But let me just jump in and say what I have seen, because you said you haven't seen it, and I even living in Fairfax I did see it. Was her response to the stimulus bill that she said that she didn't vote for it because of the money that was in it, the cash payments that went to undocumented.
No, she didn't say that. No, actually, that's not true at all. I have her statement. I tweeted at it. I think Carrie did as well too. What she said was talking about the transparency and not having bipartisan work on the bill, not having everyone in it, and having it transparent. But she also put that statement out the Saturday after the vote. So the reality is, if she really cared about those things. 1 week before that, she should have been showing some leadership and saying, "Hey, this is a bipartisan problem. It should be bipartisan. It should be transparent. Everyone should be talking about it. It should be written by Nancy Pelosi behind closed door. Even Democrats not having a say on it, and then having to vote on an 1,800-page bill the day of, basically. That's BS, man. She didn't say that at all.
She didn't draft any amendments either.
You have to love like these Republicans who are criticizing her for having dared to vote with the Republicans on a bill. I mean, you can't have it both ways.
All I'm saying is I'm responding to what you said.
Because it was a fake vote.
She doesn't get credit for it.
She doesn't get any credit for it.
I'm glad she voted the right way for
I
once.
only say it shows how worried she is about November, because if she was confident,
Brian.
she would have voted with the Democrats.
Yeah, she would have voted with that. And this Spanberger did the same thing. She voted no, but no amendments. Statement comes out on Saturday. They planned the whole thing. They counted the votes. They were able to give these 12 up in Republican districts, and so it was a fake.
Nancy's way too smart,
it was a completely fake vote.
Totally.
All right, so let's get. We have to make a prediction. Even though Ben doesn't want to make one, too bad. You come on the show. You got to make one. All right, November election, 2nd district. Who wins? Kerry Doherty.
Oh, I do agree with Ben that it's really hard to predict. This is going to be a totally weird election. Okay, I think Trump wins and Taylor wins.
Brian.
Same.
Trump, Taylor. Scott, we're going to skip you, obviously. Ben.
Trump is going to collapse. Luria will win by 9 points.
Wow.
Whoa.
See, I think.
Yeah, he's talking like we did in 2012 when we thought 2009, 2010, and 2011 was going to keep going.
For Luria to win,
and then we reelected Obama. So
Trump would have to absolutely.
Joe Biden is going to carry the 2nd district this year. That's my prediction.
All right,
but will he know it?
That's a good question.
It's elder
All right,
abuse.
I got to get to now that everybody's here. I've got to get to the Republican Party of Virginia, which is a complete and utter joke. It isn't even a joke, because in order to have a joke, there's got to be a punchline. I mean, we don't have a party. It doesn't exist. Jack Wilson's the chairman, a friend of mine, really nice guy, really shouldn't be running for chairman again. We haven't had all the stuff that Northam has done. There's not, Brian, been a press conference. The leadership for the Republican Party, I guess, is now the elected official leader locally is, I guess, Todd Gilbert. He sends out a tweet every other week. They've done nothing. There's no opposition. The party has $300 in the bank. I mean, the Democratic Party of Virginia has this entire machine. They got 50 full-time staff. They're registering voters. They're all over the place. What is the deal? Brian Kerwin.
I don't know. I don't deal with the state party very much because
they couldn't afford an hour of Brian Kerwin.
45 minutes, and I don't prorate. No, it's been troubling too, because the caucuses have long run the General Assembly races, and the congressional races don't get a whole lot of help from the state party. Even when the state party was strong, campaign finance reform pretty decimated the point of having a state party. I don't know. I would love to have a party chairman who was an activist, who had funding, who could fundraise, and who could really stand up and have a press conference. But I just don't. To be honest with you, I don't see people stepping up and saying, "I want that job."
Well, Rich Anderson is. I mean, look, I can't vote for Jack. Nice guy, Jack. I love you to death, but you've done nothing and you've raised no
money.
Why
is Brian Kerwin not running? I want to know why Brian's not running.
Yeah, Brian.
Because I wouldn't take that job.
Yeah,
I wouldn't take any pay. I wouldn't take party chairmanship of a local unit.
You made a lot of money off a lot of candidates. Maybe it's time to let you get on the volunteer side here a little bit.
You get no help. I mean, Elaine Luria is going to get help from the Democratic Party of Virginia. If you're Scott Taylor, you get nothing. You get zero.
Yeah, and in my experience, most Republican candidates like it that way. They don't want a state party handing them money with strings attached and telling them what their message should be.
Well, Brian's literally the only Republican left in the state that even puts up a fight on social media. I mean, there's the Republican Party is completely.
I'm hoping they'll copy my tweets.
I mean, yeah, he's like, I mean, he's got the troll down, but like, it's a that's all there is. That's literally the Republican Party of Virginia. Is Brian Kerwin might occasionally log in and issue a tweet.
But I do want to say, if you think that a Republican chairman is going to call a press conference and this press is actually going to show up and cover it and write about it, you're joking yourself.
Well, part of that's money, right? Like I remember obviously being in Congress and contributing and helping, paying salaries to our party and stuff like that. And you do need leaders who are elected who have the ability to fundraise. You need a party chairman who has the ability to has relationships with elected leaders to be able to get them to contribute and then do fundraisers. Because part of this stuff is it's money.
Right.
That's just the reality. Unfortunately, it's money, it's relationships. When Eric Cantor was in office, of course, he raised a tremendous amount of money and also brought in the state party and help fund that stuff. You need that. You need leadership in the party, and I'm hopeful.
Well, Scott,
I know Rich Anderson very well.
Scott, let me put you on. Let me put you on the spot.
Yeah.
I want to write a $2,000 check. Should I write it to your campaign or the state party?
Him.
Well, if you're asking,
and that's the problem.
Taylor.
That's the problem the Republican Party always has.
But they do have $300 cash on hand.
Let me touch base on that, because that's a good point. And yes, as a candidate, I know how to spend the money best for my campaign. One of the things that Democrats do on the national level and down to the state party level sometimes at times is they transfer. So Elaine Luria, for example, her last reporting period, her personally and her fundraising wasn't great. It was actually pretty bad. But the special interest groups like Emily's List, Nancy's PAC, they transferred hundreds of thousands of dollars to her, therefore allowing her as a campaign, as you know, to be able to get more bang for the buck with dollars, because they buy at lower rates, media rates, right? Than an outside group does. Republicans don't do that. We don't do that. We just so they control it. The groups control it. They give a little bit to you, or they spend for you on the outside. Oftentimes mix mashing and not being on your message.
Correct.
So I agree with that 100%. But there are vehicles like the party can raise money because there are limits at least for federal candidates. There are limits, so people can give to the party, but they should work closely with the campaigns, who should also be raising money for the party, and they should distribute that money to the campaigns themselves so they can best spend it the best way.
All right, I got to get out on time, but I'm going to give the final word to State Senator Bill DeSteff. Go ahead, Bill.
Trust, vision, and leadership. That's what it takes. You're not going to give somebody money if you don't trust them, if you don't believe in their vision, and you don't believe in their leadership. And that's what it takes for a party chairman to raise money, or any candidate.
True.
You've got to trust them to do the right thing. You've got to trust that they'll be responsible and accountable with the money. You've got to believe in their leadership abilities to pull everyone together for a common cause. And you've got to make sure they've got the vision to do all of the above, period.
Hold that thought.
Great point.
We got to go to bottom of the hour before Kara has a heart attack. She's got to get, she says, a clean hour. So hold that. We'll be back with Bill DeSteff, Kerry Doherty, Brian Kerwin, John Fredericks, Scott Taylor.
I'll stay if you want me to.
Scott's staying, and the one and only Ben Tribbett. Stay with us. Also, want to tell everybody, do me a favor and join our new Facebook community group, Open America, hashtag Open America. Join our movement, hashtag Open America on Facebook, facebook.com, Open America. Brian Kerwin's going to join it right now. Let's start off with Kerry Doherty. So, Kerry, you kind of heard the debate here about the 2nd District. Ben ended by saying Luria was going to win by 9, that Trump was going to get hammered here in the 2nd. You've been in Virginia Beach a long time following this stuff. How do you react to that?
I think that's overly optimistic, but I do agree this is a crazy year. I mean, we don't know what's going to happen. I think the economy is going to be starting to come back by the fall, and unless the Democrats find a way to keep everything locked down through November. But and that's going to be good for Trump, because I mean, you got to look. We're going to have a struggling economy either way, and I think voters are going to ask themselves, who do you want running this? Joe Biden, who looks like he's on some sort of bad acid trip, or do you want Trump, who can be really annoying, but who seems to know how to get rid of regulation and get the economy rolling? I think if it comes down to that, I think Trump wins bigger than last time.
That's what I think.
People are fed up with what's happened in Virginia, especially. We've seen what the Democrats can do here in Virginia Beach, and it wasn't pretty. It hasn't been pretty for the last few months. We've had a very autocratic governor with irrational rules.
Senator DeSteff?
Well, I'll tell you right now that we're handling close to 200 unemployment issues a day right now, and it's unsustainable for our office, but it's unsustainable for the Commonwealth. We need to open the Commonwealth. We need to get back to work. Spousal abuse, suicides, drug abuse, alcoholism, all of it's up. We've got to get people back to work. We've got to open Virginia. Look at New Jersey. New Jersey's had 10 times the amount of cases, and their beaches were opened 2 weeks ago. Georgia has been open for 4 weeks.
Well, they never closed the beach.
Yeah.
The governor, they never closed the beach. The mayor of like Tybee Beach tried to sue him. Governor Kemp never closed any of the beaches, and of course they were packed this weekend. And as I told Ben earlier in the show, in Georgia, hospitalizations are down, and deaths are down. So they haven't been seen the spike that everybody says.
Clearly, it's the right way to go, but we've got to get people back to work, and that's key to the whole thing. And when that happens, you've got to get kids into day camps. You've got to get kids ready for school in the fall.
Right.
We got to get back to normal.
Is there any chance, Senator D-Steph, that Ralph Northam does not open schools in the fall?
I have no idea what he's going to do. I've texted him, I've called him, I've written letters to him.
Do you have any dialogue with him?
Yeah, my dialogue is thank you for your input.
It's not a lot of dialogue.
Not a lot of dialogue, is it? It's ridiculous. Our governor has taken the largest city in the state of Virginia and put handcuffs on us, where the smartest thing to do would be open your beaches, allow social distancing. The heat and everything else is what helps it. And get people out to get their vitamin D, get them out, enjoy themselves, get exercise, move forward, get back to work. That's what it's going to take. And our governor, he'd rather put handcuffs on everybody, put them on unemployment, keep them quiet, keep them locked at home. That's what he'd like to do.
Terry Doherty, is he going to open up schools in the fall? Yes
I think
no?
we have a better chance than not that he's not going to.
That's
just judging Ralph Northam's behavior, which has been overly cautious. I mean, he's using a blowtorch to kill a fly, basically, in Virginia. Virginia Beach has our death rate and every death is horrible. I mean, these are loved ones of somebody. 19 people have died in Virginia Beach. That's a rate of 4 deaths per 100,000. We really have done a very good job. Virginia Beach has been one of the most compliant cities in the country when they look at those people moving around by their cell phones.
Right.
We've done everything we were asked to do. We were told we needed 15 days to slow the spread so hospitals wouldn't be overrun. We were told we were going to be Italy, where they had people in hallways and no ventilators. None of that happened. Mm-hmm. We flattened the curve. People are going to get sick, and there could be some spikes now that things are open. But you know what? For most people, it's going to be an illness that's a pain in the neck. They're going to have to stay home for a couple of weeks, and for some people, they're going to get very sick. But fortunately, we have so many hospital beds, so many ICU beds available. People will get the best medical care possible. But at some point, you can't cripple the economy.
We lose more people to the flu than we've lost to COVID in Virginia.
So I think a couple of things to point out is there hasn't been a lot of accountability for this governor from the press, quite frankly. And I have a lot of friends in the press too, and this isn't like an anti-press statement or anything like that. But when the governor first said, based on models, of course, not science and data, but based on models, and models are only as good as the data that you input in them. But obviously, as the thing goes on, we get more and more data from around the world. But initially, when the governor said, okay, we're going to close down Virginia until June 10th, right? June 10th, that at the time was further than any state and any country that I'm aware of in the world to do that. Not one reporter was like, what science and data are you basing this off of? And I will say, I remember watching the Facebook Live when the governor was doing that, and 90-some% of the comments were very positive by our people, right, by our constituents. And I remember thinking to myself, you don't understand what he's saying. You don't understand what's going to happen in a couple months from now. And I think that you might like what he's doing now because he's doing something, but none of that stuff was based on science and data. And even the beaches, I mean, Carrie and I have been on Twitter all the time talking about this. When you look at the beaches, no one's saying what science and what data is telling you should shut down the beaches here.
No.
The reality is the science and the data points, and I'm gonna beat this like a dead horse, but to the nursing homes, the assisted living centers where over 60% of the deaths are. What are you doing there to create transparency for our families here who have loved ones there, who have and what are you doing to make sure not to say, hey, we want those assisted facilities, assisted living and nursing home facilities to come to the government and say we're stretched in PPE, we can't get protective gear within 7 days. That's BS. You already have a supply. I helped supply some of those with indirectly to the Commonwealth. And what are you doing to make sure they have all the protective gear that they need, that they don't have to ask for it? We have 287 facilities in the Commonwealth. Get them what they need to protect lives. But I'm really tired of hearing the governor say, we're doing our decisions on science and data. That's BS. And no one's holding them accountable. Like, what science? Point to the science and data on these decisions that you're making.
You guys know why there's no media accountability, right? The real reason. Same thing in the White House with those press conferences. The White House Correspondents Association was a completely corrupt organization. They got the same thing in Virginia now, where the Virginia Press Association controls now who goes to his press conferences.
As soon as they ask him an adversarial question, he goes, I'm not going to answer that.
Right.
And they just let it go.
Because they control who goes in, so they don't let people like me in, which before I could just walk in. They couldn't stop me because I had a pass and I could ask anything I want. Same thing, White House, I've asked probably 50 questions there since I've been in D.C. Now I can't get in because the WHCA controls it all.
One more point,
even
I'll
worse.
shut up.
Even
One
worse.
more point, I'll shut up.
I watched a press conference with Ralph Northam. AP reporter asked a question, and he prefaced it by saying, I apologize if this is too adversarial.
It's insane.
Have you ever seen
one more point? So they're talking about stereos and umbrellas not being on the beach and all the like closing the beach. But the reality is, there were probably more people at Walmart parking lots and Walmart this weekend that were at beaches in Virginia Beach. But think about that for a second. You had Mike standing in here who was talking about his business, but he didn't talk enough, I think, about the 500 people who work for him and their livelihoods being devastated here. But how are you as the government going to look at somebody in the eye and say, you are non-essential? You're non-essential. Your life's work, your livelihood, everything that you put in there, feeding your families is non-essential. That to me is crazy. What he should have been doing is saying, hey, you operate, meet these certain safety standards throughout there to allow people to keep continuing to work. I don't think the governor has made decisions based on science and data.
So I'm just going to jump in here, and I'm not defending the governor across the board on these things. I think there have been some things that I do not agree with that he has done. That having been said, between Kerry, Senator Steph, and Scott, all three of them, the amount of misinformation in this one segment
what did I say that was wrong?
Incredible. I mean, like,
name something that I said that was incorrect.
What you're doing is you're mixing different
Name something
things
that I said that was incorrect.
You're mixing different things that you're hearing, and I'm going to go through just a couple things that I heard.
Say one thing we said that was false.
Let me start. I'm going to start with
you got 2 minutes.
Okay, but let's just start with the comment that Virginia has had less COVID deaths than the flu season. That is a completely misleading number because Virginia has had less COVID deaths because we've been shut down. So all these complaints are about like how onerous the shutdown is. The shutdown is why Virginia has had less deaths than it would have in the flu season. And so you take the one thing that's happening to lower the amount of infections and death and then complain and say, oh, we have a lower death rate. Great, we have a lower death rate because some of the things that they're doing are working. And again, I'm not endorsing everything the governor is doing, but we have a lower death rate from this because the number of people who have caught it and died is much higher than the flu season. But there's been a lot less people that have caught this than would catch the flu during flu season because of the measures we've taken. And to the point of what's said about the nursing homes, of course the nursing homes are a disaster right now. The nursing homes are a disaster in every state. This thing started in the United States in a disaster in Washington State in a nursing home.
Seattle.
But what's the one consistent with a nursing home besides the vulnerable population there is that they cannot in a nursing home socially distance the way they're telling us to do. That proves a lot of what they're telling us is correct about how the disease is transmitted because the people that are in positions where they can't not follow the
they're dying because they're over 85.
They're dying because they're catching the virus. They're dying because they're catching the virus.
And she recovered in 6 days.
Having somebody,
family members that
that's great. That's great. If somebody recovers from the virus, that's great. That doesn't mean that's not. No. That's not true. That's not true. They're not all recovering except for the agent. That is not true. That is completely false.
I'm going to move on. We can agree.
They are absolutely not all recovering except for the agent.
And part of the problem with our nursing home problems in Virginia is that we had a Medicaid facility in Richmond that the Department of Health knew was substandard, that had like a 1-star rating. Had the state done anything? When they saw what happened in Seattle weeks before it came here, Did anybody say, let's pull the records on the nursing homes in Virginia and see which ones might be really at risk? Maybe the one in Henrico, I'm talking, the one in Henrico that has three residents to a room. Maybe that's one where we should get the National Guard in, like they've done in some states, and get those people out and put them and distance them if we have to before the virus is there. There was nothing done. Ralph Northam, the doctor governor, did nothing. He didn't look at Seattle and say, let's not have that happen here in the publicly funded nursing
Republicans
homes.
have controlled the state budget through the General Assembly for 20 years and have underfunded the Virginia Department of Health, have underfunded these positions for 20 years, and then they're blaming the governor for the fact these positions don't exist.
He exercised his emergency powers and did nothing to protect
the General
nursing
Assembly
homes.
has underfunded these things.
Bill, it's your fault.
It's my fault, but
According
in
to
a
Ben,
time
it's
of
your
crisis, we do what's needed to get it done.
Right.
Now, you say that, the social distancing is what has created it, so it's not spread in Virginia. Well, that is a little part of it, but how many people are in the grocery store? How many people are in Walmart? How many people are walking in First Landing State Park less than 2 feet away from each other?
According to what
Not
Ben is
hundreds,
saying,
thousands, tens of thousands.
There would be
Well,
body
Walmart is
bags
limiting
piled
capacity.
up outside of Walmart based on the
Walmart is
number.
limiting capacity, by the way.
Oh, come on.
You all
I
are
was just
using
in
that as an example.
Walmart the other day. The thing was
Walmart is absolutely
you
limiting
couldn't even
capacity.
park in the
Home
parking lot.
Depot,
It's
Lowe's.
just- You guys just make this stuff up. All right,
haven't.
look.
They can't do it.
We're going to agree to disagree. We got 8 minutes left. Ben, I got to get to the next political topic. Governor Virginia. Well, two things. Just quickly. Mark Warner win easy, right?
Sure.
Yeah. 12.
Plus, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Governor Virginia, 2021. Ralph's out because he can't run
Thank
for a
God.
second term. Let's start on the Republican side, and we're going to start with Ben and go down the line. Right now, we've only got two Republican candidates, Amanda Chase and Pete Snyder, 30-day fund. Amanda, the state senator there. Ben, what's going to happen for governor in Virginia 2021? Let's start on the Republican side.
Sure. I'm going to start with a nice comment about Pete Snyder. I've been working with him on this 30-day fund, trying to be of any assistance I can be. I think he's done an excellent job with the 30-day fund. I think it's one of the best programs that's going. I've actually helped him work with some Democrats to bring them to the table to help make it a bipartisan effort.
Scott Servo.
And I think he's done a fantastic job with it. Now, to the politics of 2021, trying to beat Amanda Chase in a Republican primary. I know Amanda Chase is persona non grata in Richmond among the Republicans. Among Republican primary voters, that is exactly the kind of candidate that appeals to them. And I think Amanda Chase is going to be difficult out for anybody in a Republican primary.
Can Pete beat her?
I mean, I think you got to play this whole thing out, and it depends how desperate the Republicans are at that point for a victory. But Pete's going to have to win on an electability argument because there's going to be a lot of hearts in the Republican primary that want a firebrand like Amanda Chase.
Scott?
I think it's way too early. I think it's not going to be a binary choice. I think there's going to be other people that emerge as candidates, so it's just way too early to even predict.
But, Brian, you would have to admit, though, that Amanda, regardless of her situational stuff, has a following.
She does. I just think the Republicans are could turn away from the firebrands. I think. I've seen Amanda. I've seen her campaign. Not 100% of the way I do things, but she does rally a crowd. Mm-hmm. But if Pete Snyder would have been victorious when he ran the last time, we wouldn't have a Governor Ralph Northam. Mm-hmm. So. I think I would give Pete the inside track there just because of his business experience. I think Virginia's going to be ready for that message coming out of this pandemic of getting our economy moving again and take it to Terry McAuliffe, who's really not the businessman he says he is. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a better matchup.
Doherty?
I haven't really been following it that closely. I'm sort of agnostic. I think Terry McAuliffe is going to be very hard to beat.
All right, Bill?
I agree with Carrie that Terry McAuliffe is going to be hard to beat, but I don't think you've seen the ultimate candidate yet.
On the Republican side. All right, let's get to the
Are you going to run?
Democratic side. 4 or 5 candidates in right now, right? Herring, McAuliffe is getting in. Carolyn Foy, that's 3. Jennifer McClellan says she's getting in, that's 4. And Justin Fairfax, 5. McAuliffe seems to be the choice of a lot of people. I'm going to go out on a limb and predict right now Justin Fairfax is going to be the nominee. And I think he's going to shock everybody. He didn't get due process. He's a tough campaigner. I don't bet against people that are at the bottom of the barrel in politics and have absolutely nothing to lose. He doesn't have a job. He can't get hired. He's done in a lot of things. The only way up that he's got is to be the Democratic nominee. I think he's a fierce campaigner. He's going to raise money. And if I'm Terry McAuliffe, he's my worst nightmare. I think Fairfax is going to be the nominee. Ben?
I'm going to go on a real limb here and say Terry McAuliffe is going to be in the Biden cabinet. He is not going to be a candidate for governor. And here I'm going to make this is going to be a special Tidewater edition of predictions here. The Democratic candidate for governor is going to be Elaine Luria, and Scott Taylor's best chance to go back to Congress will be in the special election, low turnout special to replace her in November 2021 if she wins.
Why would Luria run for governor after she just if she gets re-elected to Congress?
I think that the Democrats are going to be looking for, if McAuliffe doesn't run, someone of more stature than the state legislators who are running. I don't think they're going to want to turn to Justin Fairfax after what's gone on. And so when you look at our congressional delegation, she's the most logical pick if you wanted to sort of bring together the suburban coalition. And one other side comment just on when we talk about the Republican primary, remember that the biggest base of Republican primary votes in the state is in Fairfax County. Everyone forgets that because Fairfax has become so blue. It's not Virginia Beach. It's Fairfax County provides the most Republican votes in the state. And the reason that Corey Stewart won the nomination for Senate, but remember, John, we were talking about this the air that night, but when he had lost to Ed Gillespie and then went on to win the nomination the next year over Nick was the shift in Fairfax County. And what's happened in Fairfax is because the Republican Party has been so obliterated that there's no leadership there to point them in the, quote, right direction. And so Republican primary voters in Fairfax are headed to those firebrands. And that's really the biggest problem the Republicans have in statewide primaries right now is there's no one to sort of direct that large, and everyone forgets about the Nova Republican vote because they don't win elections in the generals, but they are still the biggest chunk of Republican primary voters in the state. And you watch what happens in Virginia, where there's a lot of Republican leadership, and they tend to nominate more sensible Republican candidates that are electable. And in Fairfax County, that's out the window right now. There's no one that they listen to, and that's a big problem that the Republicans have.
Scott?
I think it's a fascinating point, Ben, for sure. Look, I disagree with the Luria. I think actually Wexton would fit a better profile than Luria would be for governor for those reasons and her experience and all that stuff. But also, I do think, I agree with you, if Joe Biden were to win, which I don't think he will, then McAuliffe would go into the administration. But I also agree with you that McAuliffe loses in a primary. And I don't know if it's Fairfax or McClellan, but I think he loses in the primary. I think he would be the toughest candidate in the general.
He loses.
I think he loses in the primary because it's transparent that he wants to use Virginia as a launching pad to run for president.
Yeah, he loses.
I think it's just super transparent in the Democrat primary.
And Fairfax is a dangerous Democratic candidate. Everybody is counting him out but me. He is when somebody's back's against the wall and they have nowhere to go, that's the kind of person you don't want to run against.
But if all Ben's givens are right, I mean, Ben's predictions are like these models. If the givens are wrong, everything falls.
It's the imperial model.
Right, but if Biden's in the White House, what does that portend for the following November? Is a Democrat like Justin Fairfax just going to be thrown to the wolves, and do the Republicans have the wind at their back running against the Biden White House?
I mean, if you got Amanda Chase as the nominee, it's probably similar to 2013, where that is the Democrats' path to victory.
So you got to be smart.
The problem with Fairfax is there are two women out there with very credible stories about him. Really, of all these women that have come out to sort of take down politicians at the last minute, his two accusers are the most credible, and that's going to be a problem for him. He's handled it the same way Northern handled his blackface thing, to just stubbornly stay in office. Bill? But that's good. Those women will get some profile. I think they'd kill him.
All right, we got 2 more minutes. I'm going to get to Bill, and then we're all going to make predictions for who the 2 candidates are in 2021. Bill, what's your analysis?
Well, again, I'm going to have to agree with Carrie. Those 2 women have come out, and they have the exact same story, the exact same scenario, the exact same person, and just a different time frame. I'm sorry, but I think that it's going to be hard for him to keep the female vote with something like that happening. I mean, good Lord, I know men who aren't going to vote for him just because of that story. Back on the Republican side, Pete is a fantastic guy. If Pete can win a Republican nominee I think Pete will be the guy in there. We need somebody who's going to be a business person. We're going to need somebody who understands numbers, understands finances, can read a balance sheet, and has had to sign the front of a paycheck. And that's truly what it's going to take. And Northern Virginia loves Pete Snyder. On the other side, I think it's too soon because I believe there's one or two other business leaders that are going to jump in the Republican primary on this. On the Democratic side, I think a lot of Democrats got hurt when Ralph Northam signed the late-term abortion bill saying you can kill babies after they're born on Good Friday. That shut it down, the end, period. That shut it down. I think the Democrats are going to have a very, very difficult time overcoming something like that.
Okay, we've only got a minute and a half left. I'm going to go around the table. I don't need a soliloquy. I just want you to say who you think the Republican nominee is for governor and the Democratic governor nominee is 2021. We'll start with Ben.
We're going to go Elaine Luria against Amanda Chase, and Elaine wins. And this is the asterisk on it, is that if it's Pete Snyder against Justin Fairfax, Pete Snyder wins. So this is really an election that's about who's going to be the nominees.
Scott?
On the Republican side, too early to tell. On the Democrat side, I think Jennifer McClellan, and I think Republican wins.
Pete Snyder versus Justin Fairfax, and Pete Snyder wins 50.5 to 49.5.
Oh, no.
You guys are really underestimating Fairfax. Brian?
I think the Republican leader is yet to announce, but with the choices we have, it's Snyder McCullough.
Who? Snyder McCullough?
Snyder McCullough.
I don't believe there's going to be a Biden administration, so I think it's Snyder McCullough, too. At this point, it's so early.
I don't think we've seen the Republican who's going to be our ultimate contest winner yet, but if it were today, I would say Pete Snyder, Jennifer McClellan, and Pete Snyder takes it away.
All right, that's going to be it. I want to thank everybody for being with us.